Hello, and welcome to the Voices of Sustainability virtual fireside chat series. I'm Daphne Ewing Chow, a food and environmental journalist and proud member of the Zayed Sustainability Prize Food Selection Committee. It's such an honor to moderate today's episode on building resilient food systems. Before I introduce our guest, I'd just like to share a little background about the prize. The Zayed Sustainability Prize was established in 2008 as the United Arab Emirates' pioneering global award for recognizing organizations and high schools for their sustainable, innovative, and humanitarian solutions. Today, the prize counts 16 years of global impact, with over 384 million people around the world benefiting from its winners' solutions across the categories of health, food, energy, water, climate action, and global high schools. In this episode, we will spotlight 3 exceptional projects that show immense global potential for advancing sustainable food production and security. These initiatives have earned their place as finalists for the prestigious Zayed Sustainability Prize, and I can't wait to dive into their stories and impact. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our guest speakers today. First, we have Dr. Serge Raemaekers, the Executive Director at ABALOBI. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Great. And Dr. Chen, CEO of Xinjiang, Shawan, Oasis Sustainable Development Institute. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to have you. And AbdulLateef Ola, the co-founder of NaFarm Foods. Welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here today.
I'm excited as well for all of you to be here. I'm excited to hear your insights. And I'm going to start with you, Serge. If I'm not mistaken, ABALOBI means fisher in Xhosa. Am I correct?
Yes. That's correct, Daphne.
Can you tell me more about ABALOBI, how you're supporting small-scale fishers in improving their livelihoods and ensuring sustainable fishing practices? And also, I know that there's a very strong traceability element in your solution. And if you can talk to the role of that and how you're supporting customers on this front.
Thanks, Daphne. Lovely question, and really good to be here and meet our fellow finalists. I'm also looking forward to hang out with them and learn from them in about a month's time. So I'm one of the co-founders and the executive director of ABALOBI, and as you mentioned, Daphne, it means fisher in Xhosa, one of the 11 official South African languages, and it's the name that the small-scale fishers we work with started giving to the program when they started owning it. And what do we do at ABALOBI is we're trying to support small-scale fishing communities, fishermen, fisherwomen, fisher groups, to try things differently in the way they engage with the fisheries authority, with conservation organizations around their fisheries management, around who gets to fish, where to fish, how much to fish, quotas. Differently, of course, in the way they engage with one another around unlocking their own social entrepreneurship and building healthy cooperatives, producer organizations, associations. And last but not least, as we provide quite a lot of skills building to these fisher communities and effectively operate as an accelerator to fisher groups, we plug them into our marketplace. Our marketplace is an opportunity for these fisher groups on the back of the training, on the back of the data collection, to connect directly with you and I for their fully traceable catch, their storied fish, their fish that is caught using a responsible fisheries management framework. What does this all mean? We're trying to rebuild fisheries. We're trying to sort of reinvent our connection with our seafood on the market side by getting the market, you and I, chefs, retailers, exporters, to connect more directly with the first mile, more directly with the fisher community. But at the same time, we're trying to support the fisher community on their journey towards sustainability. How do they shift long-term fisher behavior? How do they shift the needle on some really important social, think about the role of women, think about food security, economic, fair pricing, digital revenue, financial services, financial inclusion, and ecological dimensions. Ecology being obviously a focus more on sustainable fisheries and more focus away from potentially overfished stocks. That's what AbdulLateef is all about. It's about rebuilding fisheries, but very much supporting the 500 million small-scale fisheries or small-scale fishers around the globe that are deriving this livelihood from a cultural, spiritual, traditional perspective, and that are feeding billions around the world.
That's so interesting to me. I think it really gets at the heart of an issue that is in existence across fisheries across both the global north and global south, which is this issue of imperfect markets and being able to connect consumers with producers, which obviously can, help to reduce food waste and just create more sustainability. I just find that's amazing. And obviously there's important aspect of livelihoods. I remember when I was reading your application, when we were going through the applicants, I remember reading that your solution had improved revenues for your fishers by up to 300%, which is so fantastic and so impressive. So congratulations.
Thanks so much, Daphne.
Yeah, it's great. And Gang, I'd like to move on to you. The Xinjiang region is home to China's largest and driest desert, and you're helping to overcome this difficult climate through your solar-powered smart greenhouses. Can you explain to me how these work and how you're able to change the characteristics of desert sand to make it more cultivable? And some of the other smart technologies that you're deploying to bring precision agriculture into the mix. And I'd love to know what the impact, of course, has been within the region.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad to have this opportunity to share what I know, about those you asked. And our solar powered smart greenhouses can make a very efficient use of abundant sunlight in desert regions in Xinjiang, to turn solar power into electricity power, which is saved in the batteries inside our desert greenhouses. And the saved electricity power can provide continuous power supply to meet the needs of different sensors, monitoring the temperature, humidity, and also intensity of illumination inside our desert greenhouses, and also send the data automatically to the app on the mobile phone of the manager of the desert greenhouses, through IoT, namely the Internet of Things. And the manager can adjust temperature, humidity, and the intensity of illumination inside our desert greenhouses to best suit the growing needs of planted vegetables, fruits, flowers, or grains, on the app of the mobile phone of the greenhouse manager, without appearance inside those greenhouses. So that's about the application of smart equipment inside our desert greenhouses. And also after hundreds of times of tests of different compositions, we also made an environmentally friendly, innovative biochemical adhesive, which can be mixed with sand granules to enable sand granules to be held more firmly together to possess the nature of absorbing and preserving moisture like normal soil, in which plants can grow well. And our solution has turned thousands of acres of waste desert land into productive farming land. And
that is just so exciting to me.
Yeah,
with like
we also helped alleviate the food shortage problem for more than 2 million of residents in underserved desert communities, and created several thousands of related jobs, and made a significant contribution to the reduction and prevention of desertification in arid regions of Xinjiang. So that's about the impacts of our solution in Xinjiang.
I think I can very easily speak for the other selection committee members. Something that was just so exciting for us when we were reviewing this application was the potential replicability to other desert regions, and the ability to use an adhesive to convert the sand into a soil-like quality, which is so amazing. And then, of course, I remember reading about how you were using the humidity in the air for irrigation. Just, it's so amazing. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you managed to conserve 14.5 million gallons of water using this solution, that's just so phenomenal. So congratulations for that. Just such a fantastic solution. AbdulLateef, moving on to you, another amazing solution, and obviously in a very fitting environment for it. If I'm not mistaken, Nigeria has the highest per capita food waste in all of Africa, and your solution prevents food loss. Could you tell me about your solar-powered food drying solution, how much food loss is prevented, and how this is improving food security and improved incomes for your end users?
Okay. First of all, my name is AbdulLateef Olaosebikan, and I am the co-founder and business development manager for NaFarm Foods Limited. So NaFarm Foods is actually a food processing and an agribusiness development service consulting company. We are based in Kaduna State in Nigeria, and we are making hybrid solar food dryers to help farmers and food processors reduce food waste and post-harvest loss across Nigeria. But then we have about 80 units, not so much in number, but for now we have about 80 units of our hybrid solar food drying technology deployed across 6 states in Nigeria with close proximity to farming communities and food processing centers. So each of these units actually has a capacity of about 500 kilograms. And in summary, they prevent up to 50% of post-harvest losses across those regions, especially those communities where we have the solar food dryers deployed. So this is equivalent to saving about 40,000 kilograms of food per day, and a rough estimate of about 7,000 tons annually. So that's across our user database. So this figure is actually quite little compared to the statistics of the problem that we are trying to solve, especially looking at our coverage area. But then we are tackling this problem one step at a time. So come to think about this, the government, private organizations, and international communities have actually been, contributing so much into food production in Nigeria. And it's amazing, actually, that the rate at which we produce is actually coming up. But the problem still persists that has to do with food loss and post-harvest loss management, actually. But then humidity is actually the key factor, that determines the loss of this food. So sometimes farmer could harvest, but when there is delayed in markets, then they start losing their harvest, especially in horticultural value chain. So here we're talking about fruits, vegetables, then tubers, like that. And we actually started quite a long time, 2014, to introduce this solution. So, but over time, we've improved on this technology, and the technology actually works, with direct solar radiation. So we tap the heat from the sun, and we also tap electricity from the sun. Using solar panel, to feed the components attached to the solar food dryers, especially the humidifier and some other components that helps food dry a lot faster. So that is what NaFarm and our solution, NaFarm's technology, does in summary. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, this was a solution that really had us quite excited. I think what stood out for me was the amount of CO2 emissions that you were cutting, that you had managed to save 500 kilograms of CO2 through this solution and cut food spoilage by 80%, which is obviously so amazing given the context of such high food waste and also food insecurity and, developing country context. So congratulations on this solution. I'm so impressed with all three of you. And this was a perfect starting introduction to your solutions, to introduce you to each other and to our viewers. Now I'd just like to get a little bit more conversational with you guys. And I would like for everyone to feel free to chime in with your thoughts. And my first question to you all is obviously, there's the global context for food security is that things have stalled. There's with so many geopolitical issues in the world, things have sort of kind of taken a stop when it comes to food security. There's panic around how are we going to feed 9 to 10 billion mouths by 2050. There is panic around the fact that we are definitely not going to hit our goals around zero hunger or other SDGs by 2030. What is the role of sustainability, and if we want to push it even farther towards regeneration in this regard, and how do your solutions help to contribute to pushing things forward where they have become somewhat stagnant in recent times? And whoever wants to take a stab at the first answer, the floor is yours.
It's a big question. I'm happy to take a stab at it, and it's just so inspiring to listening to Gang and AbdulLateef and their solution and how they're using very practical, very localized innovations to scale impact locally, but also to potentially replicate. I absolutely love this kind of conversation. It just drives you, and I think definitely there's often days when one can feel quite overwhelmed by the massive global challenges that we're trying to overcome, that we're facing, that we're now starting to face head on. And I just like to come at it from two angles as briefly as possible. The first angle is, sustainable fisheries. We know how to manage fisheries sustainably. We've learned as a population, as humans, as societies, we've learned on how to manage, how to govern our fisheries sustainably. There are thousands of examples around the world where fisheries are managed sustainably from the three dimensions: the ecological, economic, and social. We know how to do this. Yes, we're not doing it everywhere, and that's one of the problems. But what is exciting though is that up to 50% of the global wild capture catch comes from traditional small-scale artisanal fisheries, the 500 million people I mentioned earlier on. We know from our experience, from our work, from our proof points, that if we can support these small-scale fishers to rebuild their stocks, to manage their fisheries sustainably, we can feed the world. How exciting is that? We don't often hear that. We often hear about food insecurity, but we just have a broken food system. We know how to build food systems to feed the world. That's inspiring, exciting. We've got to scale it. We've got to do this at scale with partners, as AbdulLateef mentioned earlier on. And then there's another angle, and then I'll pass it on to my colleagues. And the other angle is that at the moment, our oceans are saving us, are bearing the brunt of climate change, are saving us against the worst of climate change through their carbon absorption to their heat absorption. They are literally saving our bacon at the moment. It would be much worse if we didn't have our oceans. Now, for our oceans to absorb more and more of this and really, save us, they need to be healthy. Now, what better way to achieve healthy oceans than to support the largest group of ocean users with their livelihoods, with their food security? That's what AbdulLateef is about. It's not about rocket science. It's about doing things that we all know how to do. And it's about all of us in the room here thinking about how we eat seafood differently, not stopping and disengaging from eating seafood, but eating seafood differently and say, hey, you know what? Today, I'm going to find out who caught my fish. Who is this family or this organization that caught my fish? What are they doing? How do I support them? How do I support them as directly as possible? If we do that at scale, we can tackle some big problems.
I would just actually want to say something based on what you said with respect to the traceability side of things. I think something that you really do well is the storytelling approach that I see that you're obviously very much committed to. And I think that that's where we're really going as a society, especially the young people. I think people do want to know where their food came from, and they want to know the stories behind the fishers. Who are we giving our money to? And how did they catch this fish? And tell me about his family or her family, because I know 50% of fishers that you serve are women. So I totally agree with you. Gang and AbdulLateef, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, certainly. I have been very concerned, about the advancement we achieved in terms of agricultural science and technology. And I know a lot about the progress we have made on agricultural science and technology. So I'm very confident about our ability, to meet the increasing needs of our growing global population. No problem, as long as we can make a quick progress on more advanced agricultural science and technology. The continuous development and progress of the industrialized production technologies of more agricultural products, which will ensure the food security of our growing world population. Now, so that's what I expect. We can realize by making more progress on advanced industrialized production technology, on increasing agricultural supply, worldwide. Sure.
And what more exciting context really than in the desert? I think it doesn't get harsher than that. I think something that I really love about the fact that the three of you are our finalists is that we have this combination of both marine and terrestrial solutions to the problem, and all three contexts are very differing in their climactic context. So it's quite fascinating. AbdulLateef, do you have anything to contribute to that?
So yes, looking at the China population, it's actually massive, compared to Nigeria population. So which we are just about 250 million, at the moment. So The integration of technology and precision farming with renewable energy solution, offers the most exciting opportunity for food security. So our population is also, fast growing, but then without integration of technology, we will continue, struggling. So with technology, especially looking at what we learned from China, South Korea, and developed world. So if we're able to adopt, some of this technology in Nigeria, it will enable, a smarter and more efficient and climate resilient agricultural practices, even though we are still far behind in the adoption rate in Nigeria. But government and private organizations are gradually gearing up towards adopting technology solutions for agriculture. So this include drone technology and artificial intelligence. And again, we as a private entity, we're also taking the bull by the horn. And one of, the solution we are trying to bring in is we are creating a solution using Dunia. So Dunia is, an online cloud, AI system that we adopted. So to use, to monitor weather so that we can be able to predict rainfall pattern to help farmers plan properly and also prepare against flooding. So these are some of the challenges we actually face, that alters the food production system in Nigeria. So I think it's not just in Nigeria alone, but across Africa. But then we are trying our best to see how we can become an active player in this industry, in production and also preservation. Thank you.
Fantastic. And obviously, technology provides solutions around scale. And yes, Nigeria has a smaller population than China, of course, but I think I'm actually from Barbados, which is a tiny little island in the Caribbean. And I would say that Barbados is fast becoming a leader in global advocacy around sustainability and climate. So it's, to me, I always say to people, it's never about size. It's about the quality of the impact, and it's so fantastic what you're doing. And that brings me to the next question. Size obviously does pose challenges. We've been talking a little bit about challenges that you're each solving. If you were to each pick one challenge that gets in the way or that makes it harder to achieve the goals of sustainability, what is that one challenge that you would highlight that we need to prioritize as change makers, as innovators? And whoever would like to go first, again, please feel free.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can talk about it firstly.
Sure.
And in my personal opinion, a key challenge is the environmental pollution and also unfavorable climate change, which could be solved with the highest priority, because we have the increased areas affected by extremely high temperature. It's also related to the global warming, right? So that's very unfavorable climate change, which will reduce the agricultural output worldwide. And certainly, environmental pollution can also cause a lot of problem related to agricultural production worldwide. So that those are just the key challenge.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
So absolutely, and I should have stressed not just sustainability, but sustainability as it contributes to agriculture, and of course, environmental pollution is a critical challenge in that regard. AbdulLateef and Serge, which one of you wants to go next?
I'll jump in, Meta. Obviously, I agree with Gang. So there are so many challenges. I think one of the biggest one is that as humans, we tend to get a bit too excited about quick fixes and short-term solutions. In my space, in the ocean space, or in the seafood sector, it's quite easy to say, "Oh, I'm not going to eat fish anymore," or "Hey, let's protect it all and put a fence around it." Or let's just go and farm on our land, or let's create alternative protein that tastes like the real thing. I'm not saying these are purely quick fixes. These are all important things that we need to innovate on and work out on. But sometimes the solution is right at our doorstep. The solution is right at our doorstep. We have, again, millions of fishers that have been managing their fishery, their traditional fishery, they've been managing that for centuries. They've been managing that sustainability. There's no disconnect between the human and the ecosystem in so many fisheries that I've worked with over the last couple of decades. And so, hey, let's support them. Let's support them to do what they know best. For me, that's the really exciting piece. And I wish everybody did a bit more of that. Let's not disengage, but let's fully engage.
I love that. I think that that actually also touches on with, obviously, we've had these COPs this time of year and a lot of climate discussions. And as for me, as a storyteller in this space, in the food and climate space, the trend that keeps coming out to me that people are beginning to realize is the value of indigenous and traditional knowledge, and that we have actually hurt ourselves by trying to get away from that with these, as you called them, these fast fixes. And we need to come back to what we do best and what we know best. And our traditional farmers and fishers are those that really have those answers, because those are their environments that they always worked in. And obviously there is a great role to play for technology, but we need to combine both sides of the equation. AbdulLateef, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, for us, the challenges are actually numerous, but let me come down to the basics. So access to affordable technology for smallholder farmers remains a critical challenge. So this includes production technology, pest control technology, and preservation technology, also storage. But then bridging the gap between technology and accessibility should be a top priority to ensure equitable benefits. Because sometimes we have access to technology, sometimes, but then it's unaffordable to smallholder farmers, even cottage food processors. So sometimes when you go to the market, the technologies are actually there, but then sometimes they are not readily affordable, for the common farmers and food processors. And sometimes we even go as far as, importing some of this technology, from China, especially, and they are quite, expensive. So sometimes we get, support from, stakeholders who are trying to actually bridge, that gap to make this technology and innovations accessible to farmers. But then it should be made a priority, a top priority, to ensure farmers, processors, and everyone have access to this solution. That's it.
That's such a relevant point. I think obviously this differing access to technologies between and among countries, particularly between countries in the global north and the global south. And I just want to give a plug to the Zayed Sustainability Prize. I've been a selection committee member for, I believe, 5 years now, and something that really, really impresses me with this prize is that it recognizes that innovation isn't always about the most sophisticated technology. Sometimes it's about a farmer or a fisher that has found a way within their own grasp to overcome a very difficult challenge that might not be the most expensive, fancy solution, but it's something that is extremely useful and has created change within their communities in a very significant way. And I really do love that about the Zayed Prize. So thank you for raising that. We are coming down to the end, so we only have time for one more question. And to me, this is a very important question. One of the reasons that all three of you were selected as finalists was due to the impact and the impact potential of your innovations. And each of you in your own way is serving and empowering an underserved and, in many cases, a marginalized community. Can you tell me how you envision sustainable agriculture practices empowering underserved communities? And I will give the floor to whomever wants to take that question first.
I can take the first. In my opinion, sustainable agricultural practices can provide necessary agricultural technologies and valuable production experience to underserved communities to help them get rid of the predicament of a food shortage through self-sustained agricultural production.
Yeah, and of course, you're speaking to the fact that the communities that you are serving are some of the most food insecure communities. Despite being the food producers, are also some of the most food insecure populations. So that's so important that you highlight that. So thank you. Who would like to go next?
I'll go. But you kind of said it, Daphne. Sustainable fisheries to me are first and foremost low impact, but also are the ones that really bring together that traditional knowledge, those local customary practices and norms, that rich, local knowledge with a sprinkle of technology, a sprinkle of science, and most of all, alignment. We've created these very long supply chains, and in some, context that is relevant. But I think wherever we can, however we can, shortening those links, really stimulates sustainable fisheries.
I agree with you. And I think it's also so empowering to bring in the realities and perspectives of those communities instead of, trying to overhaul the way they're doing things, because it's not to say that they're not doing things right, because they're doing things very right. AbdulLateef, do you have anything to contribute to that?
Sustainable agricultural practices will empower underserved communities when nutritious food becomes available all year round and also affordable for the common masses, including the farmers themselves. This can be achieved by creating opportunities for entrepreneurship in agri space. This will also improve food security, and there will be a steady income for all stakeholders. So what this means is sustainable agricultural practice as a model will actually make agricultural system in Nigeria to become a wealth creating sector.
So my next question speaks to breakthroughs. What is one breakthrough that you hope to see in sustainable agriculture within the next few years that can make an impact on some of these challenges, many challenges that we're facing? Gang, would you like to take a first stab at that?
Yeah, certainly. My expected breakthrough is about the desalting of seawater. Because 1/3 of the world population they live in arid areas without enough ground surface fresh water supply. So the shortage of fresh water on the land surface cannot meet the agricultural production, the need of agricultural production. So once we can decrease greatly the desalting cost of ocean water or seawater, and then we are going to have unlimited supply, of desalted ocean water to replace the very limited fresh water, the land surface fresh water, and because the reserve of ocean water, the natural reserve, is almost 40 times of the reserve of fresh water, the land surface fresh water. So that is very big water supply. We can have a unlimited supply of the seawater if the desalting cost is very low. So once the scientific breakthrough can minimize, can decrease the desalting cost at a very low level, that means we have easy access to huge amount of water, which can be utilized, can be used by a lot of people, billions, 3 billion of people, in arid areas to increase agricultural output if they have enough irrigation water. So that's the big breakthrough. Yeah, I'm looking forward to realize, in the near future.
That's a really good point, and of course speaks very much to the context that you're operating in, but of course throughout the world, with water scarcity being such a massive issue, and will most definitely be a much bigger issue as we progress with time. Serge, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I can't top that one. That's a key breakthrough for sure. But I would, our oceans are the most underfunded SDG. SDG 14 is the most underfunded sustainable development goal around. Despite the massive role of our oceans in regulating our climate, and of course, livelihoods and food security and economies all of the world. So, crowding in and bringing in, the relevant funding, different kinds of funding into the ocean space, and doing that at scale, and doing that, in a much bigger way. I think that's a massive breakthrough. Would be a massive breakthrough. And so that's very high level. Very specifically for me is how we bring the private sector, financial institutions into the fishery space. One of the things we've been experimenting with is co-designed financial services, so embedded in our marketplace and our program of work. We run a working capital facility. We run a savings program. We just launched a life insurance program for fisherwomen. And we've been testing this and piloting this and really building the algorithms and the models that make sense and that are ethical and relevant. And a breakthrough for me would be many others doing the same. Many other organizations, really focusing on these frontline communities, on this very informal sector, and really curating, launching, scaling, offering relevant financial services. Because, one of the things we've learned over the last couple of years is that financial services, if well embedded, they can definitely bolster resilience. We've seen in these extremely variable fisheries, seasonal fisheries, winter, summer, migratory stocks, climate change, financial services can even things out a bit, can build that overall resilience in the system. And I would be very keen to see much more of this.
I agree with you. I think obviously our farmers and our fishers are so impacted by lack of access to financial markets, and of course, this whole issue of financing within the global food system. It has really presented itself as a massive issue globally, and it's definitely come out in all of these UN conferences that have been taking place of late. So very relevant points, both of you. So it's plain to see that whether we're talking about the fisheries of South Africa, the deserts of Xinjiang, or amidst the pressing issues of food waste in Nigeria, sustainable innovations are essential for transforming food security during one of the most precarious periods of modern history. And of course, looking into the future where we have between 9 and 10 billion mouths to feed by 2050. Your solutions have such potential for future impact. And I want to congratulate each of you for being a finalist. And we all look forward to January when we find out who was selected for the prize. But of course, all three of you are winners. Thank you for sharing your invaluable insights and for your groundbreaking work. And thanks to our audience for tuning in. If you'd like to rewatch this session or share it with others, it will be available on the Zayed Sustainability Prize YouTube channel. And stay inspired and keep championing sustainability. Thanks again. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And goodbye.
Thank you.